The Ice Age series is something I never really followed. Maybe it's because I don't usually watch so-called kids movies unless they're from Pixar. But recently I got sent Ice Age 4 Continental Drift Arctic Games through the mail. Let's just say I couldn't have been more unsurprised with the game's outcome. Let's take a look. So first of all, the game's premise is very straightforward. You play as the main characters from the movies, also known as the Herd, when suddenly Sid gets you caught up into a lot of trouble with a group of pirates about a fruit bowl. Because the typical thing isn't to fight to the death for something, both groups decide to play a mixture of winter sports, and whoever wins the most games wins the fruit bowl. You can obviously tell the game's premise was to capitalise on the up and coming London 2012 Olympics, which is okay, but the game could have been done better. The gameplay is far from its unique selling point. Due to the obvious rush in making a movie-tying game, the controls feel like a pain to use, especially when you need to use the motion controls in the PS3 remote. Now the game is both Kinect and PlayStation Move supported, which in my opinion is more than likely best for this sort of game. But still, this isn't a good enough excuse to not try and make the basic controls so horrible. Imagine if you were to play a game with your friends one day, and you want to have a laugh. When you start to play the game, you almost feel as you're concentrating more on the control side of things than the actual gameplay, which removes any sort of fun you may have had with this title. I can see what they were going for with this game, an alternative fun kid game that isn't so serious like the Olympics, but this doesn't give any game developers the right to make a poorly made game with no real enjoyment whatsoever. You see, if the controls were a bit more smooth, I'm sure I would have had a better time playing, but sadly that's far from the truth. Seeing as this game is made for children, you would expect there to be a tutorial before each and every game, allowing you to play a quick trial run before the main event. But no, once again you get chucked in with only seeing a control screen for the best part of 10 seconds and expect to play amazingly. You see, this is something I didn't want to have to complain about, but sadly it is a problem and could seriously hinder your performance. Let's move on to the graphics. Obviously this is not the next blockbuster that's supposed to wipe you off your feet with amazement, so I understand that the developers didn't take too much time with the graphics and put in near enough no detail in anything whatsoever, but, and this is a big but, the animations for the game just feel awkward and wrong. You watch the motion of the characters such as Sid and the rest of the Herd, and you don't get any sort of feel that they are themselves, but more of a voice with some weird blurry animation that makes no sense. This really takes away from the feel of it being an Ice Age game and more of a cheap knockoff. Overall, I'd say you should definitely avoid this game without a doubt. This is clearly a quick cash-in on what seems to be a rush movie tie-in game. The winter game concept isn't too bad, but it just feels wrong. The controls are far from stellar and the animations make you cringe from badly timed syncing and long pauses between each sentence. On that note, I give Ice Age 4 Continental Drift Arctic Games a 3 out of 10.